Eric Clapton lost everything because he was buddies with George Harrison. The birth of Eric Clapton. Eric Patrick on March 30, 1945. Clapton was born in Ripley, Surrey, England. He is one of the most important and respected rock and blues musicians of all time. Fans and critics alike call Clapton Slowhand. His amazing guitar skills and deep emotions have made him an icon for more than 60 years. His rise from a shy, quiet youngster to a world-famous musician is a narrative of artistic brilliance, personal suffering, and eventual redemption. He has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times, once as a solo artist, and twice as a member of the Yardbirds and Cream. No other musician has ever done this. Clapton had a lot of complicated feelings in his life from a young age. He was raised by his grandparents and thought his mother was his sister. This news had a big effect on him and changed the way he wrote later on, making him more contemplative and sad. He found peace and a way to speak via music. Clapton was inspired by blues legends like Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters, and B.B. King. He loved the genre's raw honesty and emotional power. He practiced for hours, attempting to get the same passion and precision that he heard in classic blues records. His dedication paid off. He was already known as one of the best young guitarists in England by the time he was in his late teens. In the early 1960s, Clapton became famous as a member of the Yardbirds. Fans instantly gave him the nickname God because of his ferocious guitar playing and extensive knowledge of the blues. They even wrote "Clapton is God" on walls throughout London. Clapton, on the other hand, was very dedicated to true blues music, which didn't go well with the Yardbirds' move toward a more commercial sound. This made him leave the band in 1965. This choice, which was risky, turned out to be quite important. It made people see him as an artist who was more interested in doing the right thing than getting famous. He eventually joined John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, where his powerful solos and deep tone characterized a time and encouraged many new musicians to learn how to play the guitar. Clapton started Cream in 1966 with drummer Ginger Baker and bassist Jack Bruce. The band was a power trio. The band mixed blues, rock, and psychedelia in a way that changed the course of popular music. Cream was one of the first supergroups to top the charts on the concert stage. Their singles include Sunshine of Your Love, White Room, and Crossroads. Clapton's shows were amazing. His extended, improvised solos and use of the wah-wah pedal helped make the sound of current rock guitar. But even though they were quite successful, they broke up in 1968 because of problems inside the group and the stress of being famous. Clapton's music changed much more after Cream. He joined Blind Faith, another short-lived supergroup, before starting a solo career that would make him known as a master of reinvention. Eric Clapton's first solo recordings, including Eric Clapton 1970 and 461 Ocean Boulevard 1974, displayed a softer, more thoughtful side of him. His smash cover of Bob Marley's "I Shot the Sheriff" helped reggae become popular in rock music. Songs like "Let It Grow" and "Wonderful Tonight" showed that he could express deep emotion via melody and voice as much as through his guitar. But Clapton had to deal with his own issues even though he was successful. He was addicted to drugs and alcohol in the 1970s and early 1980s, which almost wrecked his career and his life. His music often showed how much agony and weakness he felt. The most powerful example is the melancholy 1970 song Leela, which was inspired by his unrequited love for Pattie Boyd, the wife of his close friend George Harrison. Later, tragedy struck again when his little son Connor perished in an accident. In 1991, "Tears in Heaven" is one of the most beautiful and sad songs ever recorded. It stemmed from that terrible pain, a soft song of sorrow that moved millions of people around the world and showed Clapton's deepest compassion. Clapton rebuilt his life in the years that followed with amazing strength. He beat his addiction, found faith, and made it his mission to help other people. He started the Crossroads Center in Antigua in 1998 as a place for people with addictions to get help. He used his personal experiences to help and inspire others to get better. His following albums, such Pilgrim 1998, Reptile 2001, Me and Mr. Johnson 2004, and Clapton 2010, continued to show his love for the blues and how important he still is in a music market that is always changing. Eric Clapton's personal life, especially his marriages, has been just as emotionally complicated and genuinely human as the music that made him famous. His relationships, which were full of love, heartbreak, and eventually stability, show the real guy behind the public image of the guitar god. Clapton's marriages to Pattie Boyd and later to Melia McHenry only changed the trajectory of his life, but they also inspired some of his most famous and emotionally charged compositions. Pattie Boyd, an English model and photographer, was Clapton's first wife. Before that, she had been married to George Harrison, a close friend and musical partner of Clapton's. Their romance started in a way that was both romantic and sad. Clapton was profoundly in love with Boyd while she was still married to Harrison. This emotional struggle drove him to one of the most creative, but also most difficult times in his life. Derek and the Dominoes' famous 1970 album Leela and other love songs were inspired by his unrequited love for Pattie. The title tune, Leela, is a passionate, visceral confession of longing and obsession. Clapton's song on the Persian love story of Leela and Majin was a secret message to Boyd about how hard it was to love someone he couldn't have. Pattie and Harrison went through a lot of emotional ups and downs and didn't talk to each other for years. In the end, though, Pattie left Harrison, and she and Clapton got married in 1979, over 10 years after he first told her he loved her. People praised their union, but it was far from perfect. Clapton was addicted to drugs and alcohol for most of their marriage, and the stress of being famous, together with his own problems, made things worse between them. Boyd would later say that the relationship was full of love and pain since she had a hard time dealing with Clapton's cheating and drug use. Their marriage lasted 10 years, but it was always stressful and disappointing. They got divorced in 1989, which ended a chapter that had been both artistically and emotionally draining. But Clapton's most sincere work came from that marriage. Songs like Wonderful Tonight, which he wrote for Boyd as she got ready for a party one night, conveyed the sweetness and sensitivity of their relationship in a few simple but timeless lines. Pattie Boyd was still an important part of Clapton's artistic history, muse, inspiration, and symbol of both the beauty and anguish of love, even after they broke up. Clapton's life changed for the better when he met Melia McHenry, an American graphic designer from Ohio, more than 10 years after his divorce from Boyd. In 1998, they met at a gathering in Los Angeles to celebrate Clapton's work with Armani. McHenry was an administrative assistant at the time. Melia was 22 years younger than him, even though they were both older. The two had a strong emotional connection that wasn't based on rock and roll glamour, but on being quiet friends and having the same beliefs. They had been together for a few years before they got married in a private ceremony at the Ripley Parish Church near Clapton's home in Surrey, England, in January 2002. Clapton's relationship with Melia has been stable, devoted, and family-oriented, unlike his first marriage, which was full of problems. They have 3 daughters: Julie Rose, who was born in 2001, Ella May, who was born in 2003, and Sophie Bell, who was born in 2005. Clapton has said many times that being a father gave his life new meaning and purpose after years of disarray. After the terrible loss of his son Connor in 1991, his family with Melia became a symbol of healing, an experience that had broken him down emotionally. Melia's calmness and strong sense of privacy helped Clapton put his life back together. She told him to focus on his healing, spirituality, and music in a more balanced approach. Eric Clapton and George Harrison had one of the most interesting and controversial partnerships in rock music history. A friendship that was based on respect for each other, a profound musical connection, and, in the end, a painful betrayal. The first time Clapton and Harrison met was in the middle of the 1960s, when both bands, Cream and the Beatles, were at the top of their game. From the beginning, the two guitarists had an artistic connection that went beyond the competitive nature of the music business. Clapton always talked about Harrison with a lot of admiration, calling him a man of quiet power, great humor, and an almost mystical serenity. Harrison, on the other hand, loved Clapton's blues bass guitar skills, which he said were pure, like they sprang from a place deep inside, and never changed. Their bond grew swiftly. One of the most famous music collaborations ever was Clapton playing lead guitar on Harrison's Beatles song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, in 1968. The session wasn't merely a creative success. Clapton said it was personal. I remember arriving into the studio and seeing that everyone in the Beatles was nervous, but George wanted me there. He said, "I need your touch on this." That moment made us pals for life. I adored him for believing in me. They spent a lot of time together playing music, talking about it, and even having a spiritual interest in Indian philosophy and meditation, which Harrison had learned about through his friendship with Ravi Shankar. But within that fraternal bond was an emotional tempest that was about to break. Clapton was very much in love with Harrison's wife, Pattie Boyd. She was the same woman who inspired some of Harrison's most romantic compositions, Such Something and I Need You. Clapton attempted to fight his feelings, but they took over. That was crazy, Clapton later said. George was one of my greatest friends, but every time I saw them together, I felt this pain inside me. I didn't want to hurt him, but I couldn't help but love her. This pain inside Clapton led him to become depressed and addicted to drugs. His unrequited love for Boyd inspired one of his best compositions, Leela and Other Assorted Love Songs, 1970, which is a frantic, soul-wrenching cry of passion and pain. Harrison ultimately found out how Clapton felt, and to his surprise, he dealt with it with a calm detachment. The two kept seeing each other and often made fun of the triangle they were in. Clapton claimed it was like a dream. George, Pattie, and I would be sitting there, and he would make fun of it. He stated once, "You can have her if you want her, but I don't think any of us really got how bad it was getting." Boyd and Clapton's emotional bond got stronger over time, and by the middle of the 1970s, Pattie left Harrison for Clapton. Their pals in the music world were shocked by the move. Clapton and Boyd finally got married in 1979, but it wasn't a fairy tale. He never got over the shame he felt for betraying his friend. "I got what I thought I wanted," Clapton said years later, "but it didn't make me feel better. I had lost something far bigger, George's faith." Their friendship was strained, but never completely shattered, and it lasted in a peculiar, bittersweet way. Harrison went to Clapton and Boyd's wedding, and even joked that he was the husband. Even though they had a lot of problems, the two guys were still able to respect and care for each other. "George could forgive like no one else I've ever known," Clapton once said. "He never blamed me for it. That's what hurt so much about losing him." As time went on, both men found serenity in their own ways. Harrison married Olivia Ayres again and was happy with her, but Clapton still had to deal with his own issues, stay sober, and find redemption. They played together again in the late 1980s and 1990 seconds, most famously at the 2002 performance for George that Clapton put on after Harrison died. Clapton's last tribute to the friend who had a big impact on his life and almost ruined it. Clapton cried while he was on stage playing Harrison's songs. He said, "It was like saying goodbye to my brother. I lost him twice, once to love and once to death." The bond between Eric Clapton and George Harrison was a strange one in the end. It brought out Clapton's most creative side and his most painful side. It gave the world music that would last forever, but it took away his peace, his good name, and for a while, his soul. "George was my best friend and my greatest loss," Clapton once said. "What we had was more than I can say. It was a mix of love, music, and sadness." Their story is still one of the most hauntingly human stories in rock music. It reminds us that even in the realm of legends, love and friendship may cost the most.